Part 1, The Arrival Protocol. The moment everything changed. The gleaming silver halls of Station Harmony buzzed with nervous energy as Commander Marcus Wellington straightened his dress uniform for the 100th time. This was it, humanity's first official diplomatic meeting with the Galactic Council. After decades of secret communications and careful negotiations, Earth was finally ready to join the cosmic community. "All systems green, Commander," reported his aide, checking the final preparations. The meeting chamber had been prepared according to strict galactic protocols, with atmosphere controls set for multiple species and translation devices calibrated to perfection. What nobody expected was Captain Jake Morrison's personal problem. An unexpected passenger. Captain Morrison paced outside the docking bay, his weathered face creased with worry. The transport ship Endeavour had just completed its month-long journey from Earth, carrying the most important diplomatic mission in human history. But Jake had a secret that could ruin everything. "Come on, boy," he whispered to the cargo hold. "Just stay quiet for a few more hours." Inside a specially modified compartment sat Buster, a golden retriever with soft amber eyes and a tail that never stopped wagging. Jake had brought him as an emotional support animal. The long space journeys were getting harder on his nerves, and Buster was the only thing that kept his anxiety attacks under control. The problem was that Earth's diplomatic clearance hadn't mentioned anything about bringing animals. Jake figured he could keep Buster hidden until after the meetings, then smuggle him back to the ship. He was wrong. First impressions matter. The council chamber was a marvel of engineering, a crystal dome that floated in space, offering stunning views of distant nebulae. Representatives from 12 different species sat around a circular table that seemed to be made of pure light. Commander Wellington entered with his delegation, their footsteps echoing in the vast space. The aliens were even more impressive in person than in the holographic communications. Zephyros, the crystalline delegate, chimed like wind bells when he moved. The tentacled ambassador Quillen shifted colors from purple to gold as he spoke. "Welcome, humans of Earth," Zephyros announced, his voice resonating through built-in speakers. "Today marks a new chapter in galactic harmony." Wellington stepped forward, prepared to deliver his carefully rehearsed speech about Earth's desire for peace and cooperation. But before he could speak, an alarm sounded from the docking bay. "Sir," his aide whispered urgently in his ear. "There's been a breach in one of our transport ships." The escape artist. Captain Morrison burst through the chamber doors, his face pale with panic. "Commander, we have a situation." Behind him bounded the source of the problem, 65 pounds of pure enthusiasm wrapped in golden fur. Buster had somehow escaped his compartment and followed Jake's scent through the station's corridors. His tongue lolled out in a happy grin as he trotted into the most important diplomatic meeting in human history. The reaction was instantaneous and catastrophic. Zephyros let out a sound like shattering glass and retreated to the far wall. Ambassador Quillen's tentacles turned bright red, apparently their species' equivalent of screaming, and he began rapidly backing away. A bird-like delegate named Nexera spread her wings and screeched what sounded like a warning call. "Containment breach," someone shouted. "Earth has deployed a biological weapon." The friendly monster. Buster, completely oblivious to the chaos he'd caused, did what golden retrievers do best: he tried to make friends. His tail wagging like a furry metronome, he approached the nearest alien with his classic play bow, front end down and rear end up. This happened to be Ambassador Quillen, whose species had evolved from prey animals on a world where predators hunted by displaying their teeth. To Quillen, Buster's friendly panting looked like a saber-toothed death machine preparing to attack. "The beast is assuming attack position." Quillen gurgled, his tentacles writhing in terror. "It's showing its fangs." Commander Wellington tried desperately to explain. "Wait. That's not a weapon, that's a..." But his words were drowned out by the sound of emergency alarms. Station security was mobilizing, thinking Earth had launched some kind of biological assault. Through the chaos, Buster continued wagging his tail, completely delighted by all the new friends he was meeting. Captain Morrison lunged forward to grab his dog, but Buster thought this was a wonderful new game. He bounded away playfully, knocking over a ceremonial water dish and sending droplets floating in the low gravity. Each splash caused fresh panic among the alien delegates. Protocols and panic. Activate defense shields, someone screamed over the intercom. The chamber's emergency systems engaged, creating energy barriers between the delegates and what they perceived as Earth's most dangerous creature. Zephyros, now cowering behind his crystalline shield, chimed frantically at his communication device. Alert all ships. The humans have brought their apex predator to negotiations. This may be an act of war. Commander Wellington felt his carefully planned first contact dissolving into disaster. Earth's reputation in the galaxy was being determined by a dog who just wanted to play fetch. Please, honored delegates, Wellington called out, trying to project calm authority while chaos reigned around him. If you'll just let me explain. But Buster had found something even more interesting than scared aliens, the ceremonial food offerings left for the delegates. With a happy bark that echoed through the chamber like thunder, he began investigating a platter of what appeared to be space fruit. The sound of that bark, joyful and innocent to human ears, sent the final delegates fleeing for the exits. As Wellington watched his diplomatic mission crumble around him, one thought echoed in his mind: how do you explain that humanity's greatest weapon is actually their best friend? Part 2, Chaos in the Council Chamber. Backup arrives at the worst time. Lieutenant Ben Rodriguez had been monitoring the diplomatic mission from the security station when the alarm started blaring. As head of the human escort team, he'd prepared for many scenarios: hostile aliens, technical failures, even terrorist attacks. But nothing had prepared him for the panicked voice crackling through his communicator. All human security to the council chamber. We have a situation with unauthorized Earth fauna. Ben grabbed his gear and rushed toward the chamber, his mind racing. Earth fauna? The only animals on the station should be the service dogs that some of the crew had brought for psychological support. Surely they couldn't be causing this much chaos. He was about to find out how wrong he was. The cavalry brings reinforcements. As Ben burst into the council chamber, he witnessed a scene that would haunt galactic diplomatic history. Commander Wellington was chasing Buster around the room while alien delegates cowered behind energy shields. The Golden Retriever, completely oblivious to the terror he was causing, had found a hover platform and was riding it like a furry surfer. "Sir, what's the situation?" Ben called out, trying to project calm professionalism while watching a dog surf through what was supposed to be humanity's first diplomatic triumph. "The situation," Wellington panted, "is that we're about to start an interstellar war because of a Golden Retriever." But Ben's arrival had triggered an even bigger problem. The security protocols he'd activated automatically summoned the rest of the human delegation, including the other crew members who had brought their emotional support animals. Small package, big terror. The first to arrive was Petty Officer Lisa Chen, carrying what appeared to be a tiny ball of fluff in her arms. Princess, a Pomeranian weighing barely 4 pounds, peeked out from Lisa's jacket with bright, curious eyes. To the human crew, Princess was adorable, a tiny companion who provided comfort during long space missions. To the alien delegates, she was something far more sinister. "Another one," screeched Nexera, the bird-like counselor, her feathers standing on end. "They've brought a juvenile of the species. This must be their breeding program." Ambassador Quillen, who had been slowly recovering from his encounter with Buster, took one look at Princess and immediately began what appeared to be some kind of tentacled fainting spell. His colors shifted rapidly through the spectrum as his translator device sputtered to keep up. "The small one, it's even more dangerous," he gurgled. "Look at its eyes. They're calculating. It's studying us for weaknesses." The Great Evacuation. Princess, delighted by all the attention, let out a tiny yip of excitement. The sound, barely audible to human ears, had the same effect on the alien delegates as a fire alarm. The crystalline Zephyros actually cracked slightly, his musical chimes turning into what sounded like a broken wind chime in a hurricane. Full evacuation protocol, someone screamed over the intercom. All non-human personnel to emergency stations. The Earth predators are multiplying. The chamber erupted into chaos as alien delegates scrambled for the exits. Some moved with dignity, others fled in obvious terror. A few of the more curious ones lingered at the safety barriers, apparently fascinated by the creatures that had caused such pandemonium. Lieutenant Rodriguez watched in amazement as a 4-pound Pomeranian cleared a room full of advanced alien civilizations. Princess, meanwhile, had spotted Buster and was yapping excitedly, trying to get the golden retriever's attention. Misunderstanding multiplies. They're communicating. Nexera observed from her position near the exit. The large one is the Alpha, and the small one is reporting tactical information. In reality, Princess was just trying to convince Buster to play with her, but the aliens interpreted every wag, bark, and playful bounce as military coordination. When Buster finally noticed Princess and approached with his typical friendly enthusiasm, the remaining observers gasped in horror. Pack behavior. Zephyros chimed frantically. They're forming a hunting unit. The two dogs, completely unaware they were being analyzed as weapons of mass destruction, began doing what dogs do best, playing together. Buster's playbow was interpreted as a combat stance, while Princess's excited spinning was seen as a reconnaissance maneuver. The situation escalates. Captain Morrison, who had been trying to apologize to the fleeing delegates, returned to find the chamber in complete disarray. Energy barriers were fully activated, emergency lights were flashing, and somewhere in the distance, he could hear what sounded like alien military commands. Rodriguez, report. Commander Wellington barked, trying to maintain some semblance of military order while a golden retriever used his leg as a scratching post. Sir, we've got a full diplomatic incident, Ben replied, watching Princess attempt to climb onto Buster's back. The aliens think we've brought our most dangerous predators as some kind of intimidation tactic. Intimidation? Wellington looked down at Princess, who was now upside down, wiggling happily as Buster tried to sniff her tiny paws. They think that's intimidating? The science of fear. From behind the safety barriers, alien scientists were recording everything. Dr. Vorthak, a slug-like creature with multiple eye stalks, was particularly fascinated by the interaction between the two Earth creatures. Notice how the large predator allows the smaller one to dominate, he observed to his colleagues. This suggests a complex social hierarchy. The humans may have bred these creatures specifically for psychological warfare. The small one's high-pitched vocalizations could be a form of sonic attack, added another scientist. And look at those eyes, they're clearly designed for tracking multiple targets. The scientists were building an elaborate theory about Earth's biological weapons program, completely unaware that they were watching two dogs who just wanted to play and maybe get some treats. Communication breakdown. Commander Wellington tried desperately to reach the alien delegates through the communication system. Honored counselors, please allow me to explain. These aren't weapons, they're companions. But the translation system, overwhelmed by the chaos and emergency protocols, kept converting his words into threatening military terminology. Companions became allied forces, pets became domesticated weapons, and good boys somehow translated to elite tactical units. As the situation spiraled further out of control, Princess achieved her goal of climbing onto Buster's back. The golden retriever, patient as always, simply wagged his tail and looked around as if to say, "Look, I have a tiny friend." To the aliens, it looked like the creatures were forming a more advanced combat configuration. The diplomatic mission that was supposed to introduce humanity to the galaxy had become a disaster of interstellar proportions, and it was all because nobody had thought to explain that humans like to keep other species as friends. Part 3, The Great Misunderstanding. The Science of Terror. Professor Nathan Cross, Earth's leading xenobiologist, arrived at Station Harmony just as the crisis reached its peak. His mission was supposed to be simple: provide scientific support for humanity's first diplomatic contact. Instead, he found himself in the middle of what appeared to be an interstellar incident involving his own species' best friends. "Someone please explain to me," Nathan said, watching security footage of the evacuation, "how two dogs managed to cause a galactic diplomatic crisis." General Tom Harrison, a stern military man with decades of experience, shook his head grimly. "The aliens think we brought biological weapons to a peace conference. They're treating this as a potential act of war." Through the reinforced observation windows, they could see alien scientists setting up elaborate equipment to study the Earth predators from a safe distance. The dogs, meanwhile, had discovered the chamber's climate control system was creating a pleasant breeze and were happily lying down for a nap. Alien analysis. Dr. Vorthen, the lead alien xenobiologist, extended his sensory stalks toward the sleeping dogs while maintaining what he considered a safe distance of 50 meters. His team had been studying the creatures for hours, building increasingly elaborate theories about their purpose. "Observe the tactical positioning," Vorthen gurgled into his recording device. "The larger specimen has positioned itself to guard the smaller one, while the smaller one maintains visual contact with all exit points. Even in their rest state, they're maintaining security protocols." In reality, Buster had simply found a comfortable spot near the air vent, and Princess had curled up against his warm fur. But to species that had evolved different survival strategies, every innocent action looked like calculated military behavior. The rhythmic movement of the large one's appendage could be a form of environmental scanning, suggested Dr. Korith, a mantis-like scientist. "Notice how it increases in frequency when unknown personnel approach." They were, of course, analyzing Buster's tail wagging, the universal sign of doggy happiness. Military demonstration. The situation took an even more dramatic turn when Sergeant Mike Thompson arrived with Rex, a German shepherd trained for police work. Unlike the family pets who had accidentally triggered the crisis, Rex was actually trained for security operations. "Someone requested a demonstration of Earth's defensive capabilities?" Mike asked, completely unaware of the context. General Harrison, thinking quickly, realized this might be an opportunity to show the aliens that humans could control their biological weapons. "Sergeant, could you show our guest some of Rex's training?" What followed was a perfectly routine police dog demonstration that the aliens interpreted as humanity's most terrifying military display. The perfect soldier. Rex, responding to Mike's commands, demonstrated basic obedience, search protocols, and defensive positioning. To the human observers, it was impressive but routine. To the aliens, it was a glimpse into Earth's military capabilities that exceeded their worst fears. The creature responds to verbal commands. Nexera squawked from her safe position. They've achieved complete tactical control. When Rex sat on command, the aliens saw a predator assuming optimal attack position. When he stayed in place while Mike walked away, they witnessed perfect discipline and patience. When Rex retrieved a thrown ball, returning it precisely to Mike's hand, the aliens were convinced they were watching a weapons delivery system. The human gestured, and the creature immediately went to retrieve the designated target, Dr. Vorthen recorded breathlessly. "The precision is remarkable. This is clearly a specialized combat unit." Fear turns to fascination. But not all the aliens were terrified. Some of the younger ones, particularly those from species that had evolved as social creatures, began to show signs of curiosity rather than fear. They watched the dogs with growing interest, noting behaviors that seemed strangely familiar. Shimmer, a young gaseous alien who could shift between solid and vapor forms, pressed close to the observation window. Unlike the adults, Shimmer didn't see predators, they saw creatures that moved with purpose and seemed to care for each other. "Elder Kristen," Shimmer whispered to their ancient leader, "why do the Earth creatures stay so close to the humans? If they're weapons, shouldn't they be hunting?" Elder Kristen, who had lived for centuries and seen many strange things, studied the scene with ancient eyes. "An interesting observation, young one. Perhaps there is more to this than fear would have us believe. The breakthrough moment. The turning point came when Princess woke up from her nap and noticed the alien observers. Instead of the aggressive behavior they expected, the tiny Pomeranian did something completely unexpected. She wagged her tail and pressed her nose against the transparent barrier. The gesture was so obviously friendly, so clearly an attempt at communication rather than aggression, that even the most frightened aliens paused. Princess's tiny tail wagged furiously as she tried to reach the strange new creatures on the other side of the barrier. "It's trying to make contact," Dr. Vorthen observed, his voice filled with wonder rather than fear. "Look at the body language. This isn't predatory behavior." Buster, awakened by Princess's excitement, ambled over to see what was happening. His approach caused a momentary panic, but when he simply sat down next to Princess and began wagging his tail in the same friendly manner, the aliens began to reconsider their assumptions. Scientific revolution. "We may have misinterpreted the entire situation," Dr. Korath admitted, his compound eyes reflecting the light as he watched the dogs. "These creatures aren't displaying hunting behavior. They're displaying bonding behavior." The revelation sent ripples through the alien scientific community. If these weren't weapons, what were they? And why did the humans bring them to a diplomatic meeting? Professor Cross, watching the breakthrough from the human side, felt a surge of hope. "General, I think we might be able to salvage this situation. They're starting to understand." But understanding and acceptance were two different things. The aliens might be realizing that dogs weren't weapons, but they still couldn't comprehend why humans would form relationships with other species. The greatest mystery. As the third day of the crisis continued, the alien scientists focused on what they considered the greatest mystery of all, the relationship between humans and their companions. In all their centuries of galactic civilization, no species had ever formed voluntary bonds with creatures from their own planets, let alone treated them as equals. The humans feed them, shelter them, and show them affection, Dr. Vorthen reported to the Galactic Council. In return, the creatures provide, what? We cannot determine what tactical advantage this arrangement offers. The answer to that question would come from an unexpected source, a frightened alien child who was about to discover that sometimes the best friendships happen when you least expect them. The stage was set for a revelation that would change how the galaxy viewed both humanity and the meaning of companionship itself. Part 4, Unexpected Bonds. The Lost Child. Dr. Oliver Hayes had been brought to Station Harmony for one specific purpose, to provide medical care for the human delegation. As a veterinarian with extensive experience in animal behavior, he was also the closest thing to an expert on the creatures that had accidentally started an interstellar incident. Oliver watched the ongoing crisis with growing frustration. Every attempt at communication had failed, every explanation had been misunderstood, and the situation was rapidly deteriorating. The Galactic Council was now debating whether to quarantine Earth entirely based on their fear of humanity's biological weapons program. That's when he noticed something the security cameras had missed, a small, shimmering figure hiding in the maintenance corridors near the observation deck. A frightened visitor. Shimmer had been trying to get closer to the strange Earth creatures for hours. The young gaseous alien could shift between solid and vapor forms, allowing them to slip through ventilation systems and explore areas that were off-limits to the adult delegates. What Shimmer had seen through the barriers fascinated them. The Earth creatures moved with purpose, but not the deadly purpose of predators. They stayed close to their humans, touched them gently, and seemed to communicate through body language and sounds that felt somehow comforting. But now Shimmer was lost. In their excitement to explore, they had ventured too far from the main delegation and couldn't find their way back. The young alien had never been alone before, and fear was beginning to overwhelm their curiosity. The healer arrives. Dr. Hayes spotted the distressed alien through a security monitor and immediately understood the situation. He'd worked with frightened animals his entire career, and he recognized the signs of panic regardless of the species displaying them. "Security, this is Dr. Hayes," he spoke quietly into his communicator. I have a juvenile alien in distress near Section C-7. I'm going to attempt contact. He made his way to the corridor, moving slowly and deliberately. With him, he brought Muffin, a therapy pug whose calm demeanor had helped countless humans through difficult times. If there was ever a moment to test interspecies therapy, this was it. First contact of a different kind. Shimmer pressed themselves against the corridor wall as the human approached. They had heard the adults talking about how dangerous humans were, how they controlled the predator creatures through some kind of mystical bond. But this human moved differently, slowly, peacefully, with none of the aggressive postures the adults had described. "Hey there," Dr. Hayes said softly, sitting down on the floor to appear less threatening. "You look like you might be lost." Shimmer's translation device picked up the words, but more importantly, they sensed the emotion behind them. This wasn't the voice of a predator or a warrior, it was the voice of someone who cared about helping others. Muffin, sensing the alien's distress, did what pugs do best. She waddled over to the frightened youngster and simply sat down nearby, her wrinkled face radiating calm contentment. The power of presence. The therapy pug's approach was perfect in its simplicity. Unlike the larger dogs that had caused such panic, Muffin was small, slow-moving, and radiated an aura of peaceful contentment. Her breathing was steady and calming, her posture non-threatening, and her eyes held the gentle wisdom that comes from a lifetime of comforting others. Shimmer watched in fascination as the small creature simply existed peacefully in their presence. There was no aggression, no territorial behavior, no signs of the predatory instincts the adults had warned about. Instead, there was something Shimmer had never experienced before: unconditional acceptance from another species. "She's a therapy dog," Dr. Hayes explained gently. "Her job is to help people feel better when they're scared or sad. Would you like to meet her properly?" Breakthrough understanding. Engineer Pete Collins had been monitoring the station's environmental systems when he noticed the unusual readings from Corridor C-7. As he investigated, he discovered something that would change everything: a human doctor, a therapy pug, and a young alien sitting together in peaceful companionship. Pete watched through the security feed as Shimmer slowly reached out with one gaseous tendril to touch Muffin's soft fur. The pug's tail wagged gently, and the young alien seemed to shimmer with what Pete could only interpret as joy. "Command, you need to see this," Pete whispered into his communicator. The healing touch. For the first time since the crisis began, an alien was experiencing direct contact with one of Earth's biological weapons. But instead of attack or aggression, Shimmer was discovering something revolutionary: the healing power of interspecies compassion. Muffin's calm presence was working exactly as it had been designed to. The pug's steady breathing helped regulate Shimmer's energy fluctuations, her warm fur provided comfort, and her patient acceptance showed the young alien that not all interactions had to be based on fear or dominance. "The small creature is helping me," Shimmer whispered to Dr. Hayes, their voice filled with wonder. "I was frightened and alone, and it came to make me feel better." "Why would it do that?" Dr. Hayes smiled, recognizing the breakthrough moment. "Because that's what friends do. They help each other feel better." Word spreads quickly. News of the peaceful contact spread through the alien delegation like wildfire. Within minutes, scientists, diplomats, and council members were reviewing the security footage of a therapy pug providing comfort to a distressed alien child. Elder Kristen, the ancient leader who had lived through countless galactic conflicts, studied the images with growing amazement. The creature sensed distress and responded with comfort rather than aggression. This suggests a level of emotional intelligence we never considered. Dr. Vorthen, who had been analyzing the dogs as weapons, found his entire understanding shifting. The small human called it a therapy creature. If we understand the translation correctly, its purpose is to provide emotional healing. This isn't a weapon, it's a medicine. The revelation grows. As more aliens learned about Shimmer's encounter, they began to re-examine all their previous observations. The tail wagging wasn't a threat display, it was an expression of happiness. The close proximity to humans wasn't tactical positioning, it was affection. The responsive behavior wasn't military discipline, it was cooperation born from mutual trust. Professor Cross, watching the alien scientists' excitement, realized that humanity had accidentally demonstrated something far more impressive than military might. They had shown the galaxy what it meant to form genuine bonds across species barriers. "General," he said to Harrison, "I think we've just given them a glimpse of something they've never seen before, the power of friendship. A new perspective." Back in the corridor, Shimmer was experiencing their first lesson in interspecies friendship. Muffin had fallen asleep against the young alien's solidified form, her gentle snores creating a soothing rhythm that helped calm Shimmer's remaining anxiety. "Dr. Hayes," Shimmer asked quietly, "do all humans have creature friends like this?" "Many of us do," Oliver replied. "We call them pets, but they're really family members. They share our homes, our lives, and our hearts." The concept was revolutionary to Shimmer's understanding. In their society, different species maintained strict boundaries, interacting only when necessary for trade or diplomacy. The idea that beings could choose to live together, care for each other, and find joy in each other's company was almost incomprehensible. Yet here was the evidence, sleeping peacefully in their arms. As the fourth day of the crisis drew to a close, the foundation for understanding had been laid. One frightened alien child and one gentle therapy pug had accomplished what hours of diplomatic negotiation could not. They had shown the galaxy that Earth's greatest strength was not its weapons, but its capacity for love.